Laurel's been part of the Wolfpack for a few years now. He's a genius in his own right. He says, in my agency, we initially put new clients under excessive pressure to find out where their weaknesses are and to make them feel guilty towards us. They seem to like it. Nathan says, those of you guys who've had a 100K sales month, what advice do you have for an entrepreneur struggling to get there? Matthew says, has anyone tried niching by interest rather than industry? Example, business owners that all play golf. We have cracked the code. We're in the Matrix, guys. It happened. Just jokes and shenanigans. Welcome back, everybody. Another agency weekly Q&A. We're going to get into some cool stuff here. I appreciate all that you guys are building, all the cool stuff you guys are doing. I see the ads you're running. I see the stuff you guys are doing for client. I see the AI shit you guys are building. I see the ins, the challenges, the outs. You guys are the coolest. Quick little announcement just before we get rocking and rolling. We're going to have a live event at my house. It is January 17th to 19th. Adam says, what up, gangsta? My dude, big shout out to Adam. January 17th to 19th at my house. We've had a few of these events. I basically just do them when I feel like it. So if you can't make it, there might not be one for another long time. But we do some cool stuff there. And if you guys would like to be part of it, I put together some details. Let me actually just I got a document here with some details. I'll link it up for you guys in the comments. I love seeing you guys face to face. We're basically going to fill it and sell it out for everything that'll fit in my living room. So you guys are going to hang out at my house. We're going to go to some beaches together. We're going to eat some really good food. We're going to swim with some whale sharks. We're going to go to some famous beaches. We're going to have some good times, do some cool shit. And I made it super affordable for you guys because I love hanging with you guys. I'm just going to put January event deets and post that as a comment. Let's get into your guys and your questions. If you guys are interested, by the way, just before I forget, just check out that document. I just put a link in there. It should have details on what we're doing as well as travel and how to sort all that. And we can talk and grab your spot before they fill up. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. You can see I'm flexing right next. Strategically, we're doing finally some branding. There's some books of mine. There you go in the background. Anyway, let's talk your questions. First up, this wasn't so much as a question from Hilke, but he said, brilliant marketing. It certainly attracts the right target audience, being sarcastic, of course. So for those of you guys who can't see the ad or didn't see it, there was an ad where somebody put up these handmade signs with a QR code, and it said, hey, Dave, I know you're cheating with Olivia, and I have the proof. And all these people scanned the sign out of curiosity. And so they got shit tons of traffic, and they were driving it to a jewelry store in New York City, I believe. But of course, none of that traffic is going to fucking convert, right? Because it's not actually delivering on the promise. I kind of wanted to use this as a little bit of a rant here, where a lot of times people have taken Alex Hormozi's $100 million offers book to mean make really bold, crazy, over-the-top promises. I hear Cole saying, come on, Mexican internet. I didn't know we were having issues. Hope you guys can hear me now. But a lot of people have taken $100 million offers to mean say some crazy over-the-top shit. But if you only focused on that part of the book and not where he talked about actually get people quick results and help them win and reduce the time it takes, then what you're going to find is that that's only half the battle, right? I remember back in the day, they had some ads and they said, click here to see Britney Spears' vagina. And you better believe a young 20-year-old something me clicked that out of curiosity. And this was when Britney was in her prime, by the way, and her vagina was most definitely worth seeing. And we clicked that ad, and it didn't bring me to that. And so what ended up happening is you never click that link ever again, and you'll never ever do business with those people ever again because they didn't fulfill on the promise. And I say that to you guys because too many guys are thinking in our space about how to make a big promise. Not enough people are thinking about how to keep a promise. And the best way to make great promises that can be kept are small but meaningful promises, not bigger and bolder and more bodacious. Smaller but meaningful. I can bring you one of this kind of person. That's a more meaningful promise. So anyways, that's all I wanted to do on this rant. This next question from Caitlin is the one I've probably been thinking about the most in this week. So I kind of wanted to marinate on that, but I wanted to give you guys some stuff that you guys can use, especially those of you guys who are running Facebook ads. I hope you guys can hear me. Cole says my Mexican internet is fucking up. Would not surprise me, but it seems to be working on my end, so I never know. So she says, I've been running Facebook ads for my agency for a few days, and some of the leads have been straight out of the Twilight Zone. One just got off a bender in Las Vegas and couldn't have a clear conversation over the phone. He said he has 18 employees, but when looking up the company and his name, nothing at all came up online. I asked a few more qualifying questions. He said he emailed me the answers, but he didn't. Meanwhile, he was constantly texting some random conversation. Another lead was so confused why I was calling him when he was the person who had just filled out the form on the website. I explained who I was, even read him back some of his answers from the form, and he just couldn't make it click. I told him we take him off our list if he wasn't interested. I currently have 4 different ad creatives running, which all lead to a landing page with a VSL and a free download and a lead form. I'm using custom audiences with CRM list, along with retargeting from my website as one audience and another super targeted cold audience as well. I'd love to just put myself out there, request any feedback from those of you who've had success in the area. I've learned that I don't have time for outreach and would rather spend ad dollars to get inbound clients, so I don't really have time to make it work. Thanks, any insight? She posts her link and said it. Now I'm going to get a decent flow of 2 to 3 leads per day, but they're still not qualified due to being small 1 to 5 employee businesses. I obviously need to adjust my messaging somehow. And she's got an example of the ads. And for those of you guys who can't see them, I'll read what it says on the ads. So there's a nice landscaping thing. It says, get bigger jobs, not just more leads. Your landscaping deserves better customers. Dominate your local landscape marketing with smart marketing. Get 60 landscaping leads in 60 days. And then on the landing page, the opener says, transform your landscaping businesses with our proven marketing solution. All right. So I want to make this rant obviously useful for Caitlin, but also for those of you guys who are listening to this, those of you guys who are running Facebook ads. And of course, nobody has a magic bullet for Facebook ads. I try shit, I fail. Everybody else tries shit and they fail. But you also, succeed sometimes in there if you do it long enough. So I want to share just some things that have been very useful to us. And I've kind of broken those down into things that I would do for you in the short term and things that are bigger, like long-term, like fix this problem forever kind of thing. So let's talk firstly about the short term. One of the things that you may want to include that has been very beneficial from us, and I learned this from a friend of mine in our group named Rob, is a voice reminder. Meaning, so what happens is they book a call with you or fill out a form, and then they get an automated voice message that just says, hey, I saw the message you just filled out, and makes you a real person. I couldn't tell you why it works so well, but I'll tell you what it does do is it makes you not just a random person, because a lot of times people will just fill out shit on the internet and totally forget they did it, and they don't remember who you are and why they called. And a voice reminder somehow makes it stand out, and you can do that totally automated. You can do that either with Go High Level, or we used another tool called Sly Broadcast before the Go High Level days when we still used to do phone calls. But that little bit, and again, this is in the short-term stuff. Second thing is, I learned this from a mentor of mine, is if you want to find out who's like super red hot, give them an option to jump through a second hoop. So they fill out a form, and now you're contacting them with their form details. But I may also have a second hoop where they can jump through and say, hey, if you're really, really interested, give us this additional information, and then call those people back the first, because those are going to be the most motivated and most likely to buy your shit. Now, I'll tell you, this is both short-term and long-term, but I'll tell you the biggest thing missing from your offer is it's not specific enough. And this is probably the biggest thing that's missing from most people's offers. I'll give you some examples in your case, Caitlin, of some of the generic platitudes, and I see all you guys out there. You guys use them too, just so you know. Okay, these are things that may feel like you're saying something, but you're actually saying nothing. Okay, so one of these is get bigger jobs, not just more leads. What kind of bigger jobs? There's a huge difference between, hey, we can get you tree cutting jobs in the rich neighborhoods, versus just bigger jobs. It's undefined, right? That's different things to different people, and so you're not going to necessarily attract the right person because, like the offer, the specifics are a little bit off. And then it says your landscaping business deserves, and here comes another generic platitude, better customers. Too generic, not specific enough. Again, tree cutting jobs in the rich neighborhoods. We'll get property managers to send you their sprinkler jobs, right? Like, I don't actually know what better customers are in your niche, but I know what specifics look like, and it doesn't have the specifics. Then it says dominate your local landscape market with smart marketing. What does it mean to dominate? Again, this is where small but meaningful promises outshine big ones. You're better off saying, like, we can do this one specific thing than you are to say, like, you're gonna fucking dominate, right? Like, that's a big promise, and that's hard to fulfill on. You're gonna get a lot of dreamers with dominate. But if you say, like, we can do this one specific thing, you're gonna get people who actually want and need that one specific thing. It says, get 60 landscaping leads in 60 days. Again, leads is, again, not specific, right? Like, they don't value all leads equally. There's a huge difference between, you'll get some random idiot to fill out a form, and, again, like, we'll get you sprinkler jobs in the wealthy neighborhoods, right? Like, that's a different kind of... If you said, I'll get you 60 of those leads, and you could actually fulfill on that, it would probably mean something. But I would focus on, again, a smaller number for them to get started. Now, also, when they land on your page, I see the biggest mistake people make, which is they talk about themselves and their hammer and their thing. And, I've probably beaten this analogy to death, but I'm going to keep beating it to death, which is... Your thing is like a hammer. People are using your service to build something, and they build different things with it. Like around here where I live, they're building new construction houses where somebody wants to live, right? They do that with a hammer. Some people are like using it to build a backyard deck where they can have backyard barbecues and stuff like that. Some people are like trying to remodel their kitchen so they can cook more. Another person trying to build a birdhouse and have their daughter smiling. They're not, in any case, they're not buying the hammer. So if you talk about the hammer, they just don't give a fuck about it, right? It's like saying, hey, we got an ergonomic handle, we got 1040 steel. So anytime you talk about your marketing solution, you're saying nice hammers, shiny hammers, 1040 steel, and all the things that they have no fucks given about. So to me, if you could just show them like some specific promise, like we can get you sprinkler jobs in the rich neighborhood, and then you go, here's an example lead that you will get. Either show them like a screenshot of like a lead form filled out, or like an example phone call you're able to generate, and you just click play and go, here's an example phone call of what we're able to generate for you. It's going to work so much better than talking about your thing, because they only care about what happens for them. And so as long as it's like, and again, it's generic, it's not specific enough. What does transform your landscaping business mean? That's different shit to different people. Our proven marketing solution. Again, that's generic platitudes. So you guys want to avoid all these generic things. And I'll tell you the biggest reason people have generic things is because they're trying to talk about themselves and their thing instead of what you're trying to build. So like if I was selling hammers, I'd say, what are you trying to build? And if the person says, I'm trying to make a new house to live in, then I'd say, yep, this is the thing right here that'll get you a brand new house. You'll need to use it for 6 months, and you have to do all these kind of things. But when you're finished, this is the best house building tool I've ever created. Right? Or if they come in and they say, I'm trying to build backyard, I want to have a backyard barbecue, you say, you need a deck for that, and this is the best tool right here to build a deck, okay? So you never sell a hammer as a hammer. You sell it as an outcome, and you're selling the hammer. So you're talking about transforming and our solution and all the things they don't care about instead of what they're building. Sprinkler jobs, landscaping jobs, tree cutting, whatever that is for them. You know this niche better than I do. So those are the short-term things, okay, that I would fix immediately. Now let's talk about the long-term things, because I don't think enough people talk about these long-term things either. All right? There are other long-term considerations beyond just, the things I just mentioned. And I've talked about this for a long time, but I don't think enough people appreciate it until you experience it directly, which is... there are hidden metrics inside of an advertising funnel. So in your case, you're running Facebook ads. Same thing would be true if you guys are running YouTube, Google, cold outreach, whatever. And I'll tell you the biggest hidden metric is the temperature of the person who gets on a call with you guys. And you don't necessarily need to do calls. And what I mean by that is there was a period. I'll illustrate this through a story. So I had a funnel rocking when I first met Ilka. So I want to say like 8 years ago. And I had different numbers I was told to hit in a funnel. Click-through rates, sign-up rates. We were running a webinar. and it was like, you should hit these numbers in your webinar, this many people should book a call, and this is what you should pay for call. We hit every one of those numbers. Our click-through rate was above what it was supposed to be. Our landing page opt-in was working. Our webinar was working. We're getting calls booked, and they were within cost specifications. But I'll tell you what was missing from that. If you could just measure, are the right people getting on the phone, and are they serious about buying this thing? We were 0 for 100. So we were getting like 100 to 200 calls booked a month. And I very rarely actually spoke to somebody who's qualified. So if you can measure their temperature out of 10, you've essentially talked to people who are like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 on your solution. And you can almost feel it. For me, like they almost have crossed arms like, what's this about again? Go ahead and try to sell me something, big boy. And they're like, they don't know about you or why they filled out the form. And so you experience it where they're like, who are you again? Why are you calling me? I didn't fill out some shit. And they barely remember you and what you are. Right? And so this is the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but the way to get people to be 7s, 8s, and 9s and 10s, where the call is more like, hey, we know about your thing, we know how much it costs, we're super interested, we still got a question or two, but we want to see if it's a fit, and so we thought we'd have an exploratory conversation together. Though that's somebody who's like an 8 out of 10 on working together. The way you get 8s, 9s, and 10s is you do more front-end pre-selling. And what most people confuse what they're trying to do is, Jason Kanigan calls this the 2 sales. So the 2 sales are, the first sale is that the way to get the thing your market wants, their outcome, the way to get that is using your methodology. And the second sale in that scenario is like, you should use me and my service to do it. And if you could measure these easily, actually 90% of your sale is the first sale and not the second. So let me give you an example of this, okay? So let's say, I'm assuming, I know you've told me before, but it's been a while, but I believe you're also planning on running Facebook ads, or you are running Facebook ads for these landscapers. Meaning you run Facebook ads to get them, but you also like fulfill on that service by running Facebook ads for them as a client, okay? So there are 2 sales to make in that scenario. One is that if you want to get tree cutting jobs or sprinkler jobs or stuff in the rich neighborhood or whatever that outcome is for your market, that the best way to get that is with Facebook ads. That's the first sale. In other words, you should be doing Facebook ads at all. And the second option is, our solution is the best solution to get there. And you're spending 90% of the sale on the one that actually is the least important, is that you should use me. And you should be spending 90% of your time selling the idea that the way to get what you want is with Facebook ads or SEO or pay-per-click or web design or whatever it is your solution is, copywriting, offer making, whatever. And if you sell the big idea, so I'll give you guys a couple of examples of this. We got a guy, Chris Lilini, jumps to mind in the mastermind. He's running Go High Level, right? Like he's got 2 services, and one of those is he helps plumbers and HVAC contractors to get Google reviews with his Go High Level SaaS. Well, the second sale in that scenario is that you should use my software because it's fucking awesome. And that's where most people spend 90% of the sale, but you actually only want to spend 10% of the time. 90% of the sale is that if you want to get, in his case, referral grade customers, you need to have 500 solid Google reviews. And if he can make that sale, it's almost automatic that they're going to use him as the person to fulfill on it. So most of what you guys should be putting out there is not what people think of, like, let me be your marketing solution. It's that, hey, if you want outcome, then you need to be using this methodology. Let me show you how it works. And so in your case, the way I get people who are like 8 out of 10 is I put 5, 10, or even sometimes 15 or more pre-sale pieces, and they're all centered around that the way to get the outcome you want is through this different process. So in your case, it might be that, like, hey, if you want to get tree cutting jobs, you need to be running Facebook ads, and here are the things that matter in Facebook ads. And you, at the very end, you might say, and if you just want my help to do it, that's how it works. What's up, Johnny? So that's one of the long-term things. And then also, if you want, like, this is a thing I wish I knew earlier, But I'm a big believer if you're going to enter a market and you actually want to quote unquote dominate it, then you need to be omnipresent, which means ads are not something you do some of the time, a little bit of the time. And I remember when I was first exposed to the power of omnipresent marketing, I was in a lot of, I was hanging with some of the biggest attorneys in the world, like the guys who spend the most amount of money on TV and billboards and radio. Like, you got a guy like that. If you live in America, you got a guy like that in your city. You know a guy who fits that description. I was in a room with those guys. And I remember the conversation was centered around they have difficulty tracking their marketing because almost all of them have easy to remember phone numbers. And they do that because if you run a commercial and you have a hard to remember phone number, people can't call you even if they like the ad. So for example, George Sink from South Carolina, the biggest lawyer in South Carolina, his phone number is 9999-9999. You want to call George Sink? Just keep pushing 9 until somebody picks up the phone, right? That's his advertising. And it makes it very easy for people to remember when they see his ad. So another lawyer might go, call 232-8751. And you go, what was that number again? And in George's case, you just keep pushing 9 until you hear a voice on the other end. And so it works really, really well in their branding advertising, but they have a problem with it, is that everything's tracked to this vanity phone number, and so they don't know what's working. So they don't know whether the phone calls are coming from a billboard or a radio ad. And this was a conversation of like, how do I track it? And I remember asking a question of like, is it working? And they'd all say, oh yeah, it's definitely working. Like the combination of all of it is definitely working. And I was like, well, if it's working, who gives a fuck about tracking it perfectly? So in your case, you hinted at, I'm going to do a little bit of retargeting, but I would suggest to you that's where you actually get people into the 8, 9s, and 10s, is in the retargeting, in the follow-up, in the seeing your ad 5, 10, 15, 20 times, in the repetition of, oh, Caitlin's the landscaping company. I'm not saying you can't go from cold to sold. In a cold ad, you can, but the real magic long-term happens when you build an audience and they get used to seeing your ads and offers repeatedly over time. Will come to know you as the person in doing that. So all you're really trying to do, in my mind, short term, is just make enough money to keep running the ads, so that long term you're building an audience of people who get used to seeing you and recognizing you as the person who does that one thing. And then of course, as I mentioned, the offer. Like, you want to get away from the platitudes. The best thing you can do is just show a landscaper, this is what you will receive from me. A phone call, an example form fill. This is the type of person that's going to contact you. Like, that's actually the single best thing you can show them, is not talk about you, not talk about your solution, not talk about how great it is. Don't try and sell, like, again, focus on that, like, one outcome and show them that your methodology is the way to get it. And then think about, like, one of the things I learned with working with attorneys is if you go to court with a personal injury case, for example, it's not about who's telling the truth. It's about who has evidence and who does not. So for a lawyer, a lot of their work is actually documenting that what they say is true is true. So they have to get proof of medical bills. They can't just walk into a courtroom and say, look, he's hurt and he's had to pay $200 or $200,000 in medical bills. They got to actually keep receipts and say, we have receipts of $200,000 in medical bills. We have a doctor who says all of this is caused by the accident, right? They have to prove it. So if you think about, like, proving it to them that this is what you're going to receive in your reality, and demonstrating that, not saying it with words about transform and dominate and those sort of generic platitudes that we're all kind of guilty of using at some point, and just focus on, I can do this one specific thing for you, and here's a real picture or here's a real phone call so you can see what it looks like that you'll receive. They'll want it because they already want it. And what you'll find is you don't have to sell your stuff as hard. You just have to demonstrate that, like, here's how it works. And I think this is a useful thing, like mindset-wise, to understand. Whenever I've been in periods of my life where sales for our agency were, like, really difficult, I almost always make deciding to work with me like a really big, heavy decision. And whenever I've been in spaces where sales were just easy and popped and all of that, almost always we just talked about, like I just expected sales, and so I would talk about what happens next. Johnny says, explore the world of incredible ROAS. Yeah, that's funny, my dude. So anyways, getting off topic here for a second. So, totally lost my train of thought. But anyways, I hope that rant is helpful, because it's like, really tighten the offer and get more specific, retarget those people, and really focus on like pre-qualifying, and if you want to, give them extra hoops to jump through and become known as that one thing and demonstrate it. Like a lawyer would have to prove in court. They can't just say there's medical bills. You can't just say a better customer. Show them an example of a better customer. Bring proof to the table that what you're saying is true. Anyways, I hope that helps you guys with your Facebook ads, because I'll tell you what traps people. When I started seeing these top lawyers spending like shit tons of money on ads, I realized that the success of their ads was the fact that they just kept running it continuously long enough until they built a brand. I used to, by the way, only think direct response ads were any good, and anybody who was trying to build a brand was an idiot. But I actually now believe that they work best together, that your direct response ads pay for you to build a brand, and the brand is the real long-term asset. And what happens is, like, I've been with lawyers, like, for example, like just walking down the street where they're so famous in their city from 30 years of TV commercials and shit like that. People are taking pictures of us like paparazzi and shit, like, you know, like, oh my God, look, it's this guy, that guy, right? You know, I can actually remember, like, they're, you know, walking down the street with a guy, and like a guy pulled up at the stoplight and was like, oh my God, it's Eddie so-and-so, and just started taking pictures. But it's like, oh my God. And like you're a celebrity, but that's the branded effect of continuously advertising over time. And so the goal of your shit is to get it as dialed in as you can today, so that long term people know you as the go-to person. And I experienced this, by the way, with my Facebook ads. It took about 6 months to reach that point. So if you think about it as like what most people think about, do ads work or not work? They think about it as binary, and they're trying to hit a home run or score a touchdown on one play, you lose. But if you think about it, like, our goal is to advertise continuously forever for the next 30 years, so long as we want to serve this market, then you think about how can we, you know, get the most out of our ads today, but continuously we're going to advertise different offers, different specials and stuff to those people, and different content to them round the clock forever and ever. You're going to have a better experience. And all it takes, by the way, is 10 to 15 pieces that cycle between them, and it won't feel like you're hitting them with the same ad over and over and over. So our goal, by the way, when we do that, is to get like 10 to 15 authority pieces, and that's why I'm so big on going after shoe stores, because then I have the best ads. I can, like, here's me in the magazine, here's me in the industry event, here's something we were talking about on the top podcast, and when people see that, it just affects them and they want to buy your shit without you having to chase them. So having said that, I would think about shrinking the size of your offer, make it small, prove it, demonstrate that you can do it. Don't talk about you, don't talk about Transgarment, don't overpromise. If anything, think about showing them one of something that's like actually specific and meaningful, and you'll have probably a lot better experience both in the short term and the long term. This one was a mindset thing that I just wanted to share with you guys. It's not so much a question, but Oral's been part of the Wolfpack for a few years now. He's a genius in his own right. He says, in my agency, we initially put new clients under excessive pressure to find out where their weaknesses are and to make them feel guilty towards us. They seem to like it. I'll tell you why they seem to like it. It's not because they just like suffering and punishment, although they may. You never know what people are into. People are into some kinky ass shit. But what I mean by that is, a lot of times when people go into business relationships, they approach it from a middle class point of view. And so in their mind, they're trying to get hired, and that person controls all the cards and all the decision makers. And it's actually not very fun for the person hiring you and your agency. And I'll tell you what most business owners want in general is they really want people who can come in, proactively solve problems, proactively make good shit happen, who can operate independently and do cool stuff. So for me, like, if I hire somebody and then all of a sudden they got to ask me 50 questions about what they want me to do or what I want them to do next, that's immediately less desirable than the flip side of if somebody comes in and say, hey, we recognize this problem, we've already instituted this fix, these are the metrics, we're moving here, do you have any questions about how we're moving that forward? So believe it or not, clients want you to come in and like be fucking real with them about where shit is broken and where it needs to be fixed. So for me, like, one of the things I learned is that a lot of like clients across the spectrum are really bad at phone calls and handling them. So one of the things that we've done over the years is I'll just hire somebody on Fiverr to go in and do what's called a mystery call, and they'll call that business and record the call, and they'll not get closed by that business, like that lawyer, that plastic surgeon, whatever, and then we send the example phone call to the owner and say, like, hey, dude, I know you think your phone process is dialed in, but I promise you it's not. Like, look how, like, I just had my guy run a test, and like, your people didn't ask for the sale, they weren't super friendly, they didn't know how to answer questions, And it's way easier to do that on day 1 than it is on day 90, where they say all these leads are shit, and you say you suck at answering the phone. If you proactively do that on day 1 and say you suck at answering the phone. So this is my way of saying it. Like, treat these like partnerships, like it's your own business, and you need it to succeed, not as somebody who hired you to do a service. And get more proactive about it. And like, clients will fucking love you for that shit. Like, clients love it when you send them a thing and go, you suck at answering the phone, you fucking motherfucker. Fix this shit. And they're like, yeah, you're right, dude. You're right. I totally need to fix this. And especially when you say, hey, I already got a script. I got a training. Put it together. Can I send it to your people? Right? Like, that's extra proactive. Like, so I don't want you guys to think about this. Like, get out of this middle class idea that you're trying to get hired. You're finding lucrative partnerships for both of you, and like, go in there and don't be afraid to tell them the truth. Everybody thinks that like, as like, if you're getting hired, you don't tell your boss what you really think. But if you're a partner, you go, look, dipshit, you got to answer the fucking phone correctly, right? So don't be afraid to tell people the truth. Like, clients actually like it, by the way. And do it on day 1. Don't make this a day 90 pissing match. Do it on day 1. Like, you guys suck at answering the phone. Like, why are you guys so shit at answering the phone? Anyways, hope that's helpful. Nathan says, those of you guys who've had a 100K sales month, what advice do you have for an entrepreneur struggling to get there? So I'll tell you, I've had a lot of conversations with people over the years that are in the 10 to 50K range, where 100K is now in the front view window, and we can see it, and we know we're aiming for it, and we know it's possible. Because, hey, we already got to 30K. Like, we know we can do 100. And I'll tell you, almost always what keeps people from getting to that level and staying there, which is also like equally important, is like a structure, systems, and processes. And this is the boring part of the business, why I brought in Jess Cotter, and I don't know if you guys have seen our System Saturday, but it's because like McDonald's doesn't have the same issues scaling that other hamburger restaurants do. So you think about it, like, there's a lot of mom and pop places that make way better burgers than McDonald's. And I remember Robert Kiyosaki had a question on that. He said, a lot of times people come to me in that literal example where they say, I make a way better burger than McDonald's. Another news, like another way of saying, like, my product is way better than theirs. I should have more sales. But then he asked them the question, do you have a better system for marketing and selling hamburgers than McDonald's? And of course, they don't have a better system for marketing selling. Then he says, do you have a better system for fulfilling on burgers at scale as McDonald's? And of course, they don't have a better system. So this is really important because I've mentioned this before, but when McDonald's first scaled, the only thing they sold were burgers. So almost always, like, what stops people from scaling is either A, they're doing too much shit. Like 5 or 10 custom clients is harder to manage than 50 of them where you do the exact same thing. And then when they have it narrowed down to just one thing, often they don't have systems and documented process. But if you want to get to 100K, it's usually those two things. It's like shrink the amount of deliverables, have one solution to one problem, and just do it again and again. Just make burgers and nothing else. And then document and systematize it so that the burgers get made. Like, Ray Kroc doesn't lose any sleep at night about making McDonald's burgers. The burgers get fucking made because they follow his system over and over. Like he's not in the back line cranking out Big Macs. And this is how you want your agency to run, with systems. So people are making burgers the way you specify to do it, but you're not the ones doing it. And so for us, what that means, a project management tool, a list of everything we do in there. Each of those tasks has a description. Each of those tasks has an assignee. Each of those tasks has a due date for when that assignee must complete it. And a lot of it is just checking boxes. Like, it's literally just your team going in and checking boxes and you periodically reviewing it. And in many ways, once you have that in place, it's actually easier to have a 100K a month agency than a 30K a month agency. It's kind of wild that that's true. But when you have that, like, there's less to do. There's more big decisions to make, so like, I guess some of the decisions are a little bit heavier, but in a week you have way less grinding and busy work and shit like that to do. So anyways, that's my advice for people that are struggling to get there. Matthew says, has anyone tried niching by interest rather than industry? Example, business owners that all play golf. Okay, so yes. So there is a tendency when people think of a niche to think that this must mean a vertical. And it can mean a vertical, but it doesn't have to. And I wrote about this a little bit in my book. But my first book, which you can see there. It's hard to do this in reverse in a mirror, but that one right there. But one of the things you can do is like niche down by like an interest. So I think of Joseph in our group. He works with cannabis owners. So some of those guys sell e-commerce stuff. Some of those guys have live events. But at the end of the day, if they're getting stoned, he's getting stoned with them, right? So they're having some Cheech and Chong parties and elated interest. I've also seen this done as like an affinity thing where like Christian business owners. So like if you're super Christian, I've also seen it done with like military. Like if you're a military guy and you want to work with other military or former ex-veterans. So there's all kinds of angles. It also can actually be about your deliverable if it's unique enough. So for example, like I think of, I'm blanking on his last name, Joel, who we've had him on the show. Anyways, Joel does the webinar agency. And like they just help people with their webinars. If you got a webinar and you need some help, like he's the best guy for, and it's probably custom work, but they have a process for cranking out like really awesome $10 million webinars. So there's all kinds of different ways you can niche down. The important thing is just make your messaging aim somewhere and make your fulfillment repeatable. That's the whole point of picking a niche. Most people greatly misunderstand what the purpose of a niche is. They think, oh, if I pick the wrong one, I'm going to be screwed over and I'll never be able to make money because I chose the wrong one and all these people are broke. And in reality, every niche has money and every niche has broke people. Like you're aiming for the people who got it in your industry, but what you're focusing on are like creating a message that says something and creating a fulfillment that can be repeated. And if you have those two things, you got a niche, just so you know. As long as you have a message that's specific and meaningful enough to somebody and your deliverable is repeatable, you got a niche. So like in Joel Irway, sorry, I was thinking of blanking on his last name. Joel Irway, the webinar agency, right? Like he gets people in, they need help with their webinar. He knows how to fix webinars. Ergo, those two things go together. So hope that makes sense for you guys because there's so many ways to play with this niche thing. Just like choose one that's right for you. And if those of you guys are interested, we have a custom GPT I've been building for that purpose. So when people like, you want to explore what niche you should be doing, it'll ask you some questions about you, your life experience, blah, blah, blah. It'll suggest a couple of niches that are specific to you if you're struggling on the niche question, because I feel like people take way too fucking long about it. In my mind, you should take about 48 to 72 hours to decide on a niche, and many people take 9 months, 12 months, and that's just way too long because you waste all this time when you could be like moving forward. And the flip side of that is like, some people change niches every 30 days, and that's equally destructive. Like you want to commit to a niche and be in it for 6 to 12 months at least, but like you're not married to it forever. Try it out. If you don't like the people or you don't like working with them, then you can always change it later, but don't change it every 10 minutes like certain people do because you just have to start over and start over and start over. Anyways, that's all we got for questions. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope my internet is holding up on your end. I never know with shitty Mexican internet. But we appreciate you guys for watching this. As I mentioned at the intro, we're having a live event in my house in the new year, January 17th to 19th. And I decided to do something a little bit different. So what I realized through doing several of these is that the actual biggest value people get is when they all talk to each other for a couple of reasons. One is that you're usually not around people every day that understand what you do. Your friends and your family, spouses, kids, things like that. Brothers, sisters, uncles, co-workers, if you still got a job, like they have no idea what this shit is. And so like, you know, there's not many times you can talk to people who understand you. So like, for one, just like being understood is amazing. Two is that almost always people got solutions to each other's problems. Like one person's going, I don't know how to generate leads, but I'm really good at closing. Another person says, I got leads for days, I don't know how to close. Another person says, we got leads and sales, but we don't know how to onboard. And this person's like, oh, I got my onboarding solution. Why don't you just use ours? So the most meaningful stuff that comes out of it. So I've designed it to have more fun, more conversations. So we're going to do that at my house for one whole day on the beach. We're going to also take a private boat to a world famous beach. And we're also going to go swim with some whale sharks. And like on those boat rides, you're going to have some of the best, most meaningful connections. And I like them small and intimate. That's how I like to roll. I'm more of a let's go deeper, not a let's go wider kind of guy. So we're going to go deep on you and your biz and share. I pretty much got a tool and a swipe file for everything. So you guys will be leaving with some tools and swipe files, a really good fucking time. And I priced it super affordably. So there is a link somewhere in these comments that I posted above. If you guys are interested, check that out. Get back to me as soon as possible with it. Whether you're in or out, because we will sell out. We've sold every one of these out. This one will be no different. I would hate for you guys to lose your spot. A lot of times people say, "Oh, can I come to the next one?" And the truth is, I never know when the next one will be because I just do them when I feel like it. And so I can't. So if you're thinking about doing this one, don't wait and come hang with a brother and some other really cool, smart people. We actually already have a couple of really fucking awesome heavy hitters coming here that, like, just knowing them will probably level your shit up. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys right now. Much love. Appreciate you guys. Happy Monday. May the force be with you. Hey guys, if you like this video, you may also like my best-selling book here, Beyond the Agency Box. It is all about scaling a digital marketing agency while eliminating meetings and phone calls. We actually sell our stuff phoneless. We don't have any client meetings, and we also hire our team entirely without meeting phone calls, which allows us to, like, actually kind of live a life. I've laid out the entire blueprint and everything you need to know, getting clients, onboarding, setting expectations, scaling, building a team, you name it. It has been a bestseller on Amazon now for over 5 straight years, but now you can get it even cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. So I can't tell you the exact price because it may change when this video is released, but there should be a link to it below, either in the description of the video or as well as a pinned comment. So if you're interested in that, check out that video and you can get a copy for super cheap.